Hi everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the hidden stories within corporate filings. And today we're diving into Postal Realty Trust's latest update. And let's just say they've got some new legal advice that might change how they sell you shares. Alright, so Postal Realty Trust is giving us an update on August 4th, 2025. It's a current report, meaning a lot of things can happen that require immediate notification to the public. This is a Form 8K, which is like a company's way of saying something important just happened. Think of it as a company's breaking news announcement to the stock market. The company we're looking at is Postal Realty Trust Inc. They're incorporated in Maryland and their ticker symbol on the New York Stock Exchange is PSTL. They're talking about their Class A common stock, which is basically just the regular stock that most people buy and sell. First up, they've released their financial results for the quarter that ended on June 30th, 2025. Now, this filing itself isn't the actual financial report. It's more like a heads up that they've released one and they've attached it as an exhibit. If you want the nitty-gritty numbers, you'd have to look at that exhibit, but this report tells us that they've put out their performance for that quarter. It's important to note that the information in this section and the attached press release isn't considered officially filed with the SEC in the same way other documents are, meaning it doesn't carry the same legal weight for certain sections of the law. Now, here's where things get really interesting for Postal Realty Trust. This section is about other events, and it looks like they're updating the legal teams, the lawyers who give them advice on selling their stock. They've been selling stock from time to time under a big plan, a registration statement filed with the SEC. Think of this as a company's license to sell shares over a period of time up to a certain amount. The total amount of stock they can sell under this particular plan is $150 million. Now, this plan has been updated a bunch of times almost yearly, with the latest amendment happening in May of 2025. The big news here is that the lawyers who are giving them advice on these stock sales have changed. These are the folks who make sure the company is following all the rules when they sell shares to the public. So the company that will now officially stamp their approval on the legality and validity of the shares they're selling is Hogan Lovells USLE. This is a pretty big law firm, so they're bringing in some serious expertise to make sure everything is above board when they issue new stock. They're also keeping Hunt & Andrews Kurth LE on board to handle specific US federal income tax matters. So they're splitting up the legal work, which is not uncommon, but it shows they're being very careful about the legal and tax side of their stock offerings. And finally, Morrison & Foerster LLP will represent the sales agents. Think of sales agents as the brokers or investment banks that actually help sell the shares to investors. So this means even the people who are out there actively selling the stock have their own legal representation. It's important to note that these changes are only about the legal counsel. They aren't changing the terms of the stock sales themselves or the amount they can sell. This is purely an update on who's advising them on the legal side of things. And as we saw in item 2.02, they've attached a press release about their recent financial results as exhibit 99.1. So this exhibit is the actual press release where they talk about their performance for the quarter. And finally, the report is signed off by Jeremy Garber, who holds a few important titles: Interim Chief Financial Officer, President, Treasurer, and Secretary. That's a lot of hats to wear, but it shows a lot of responsibility resting on his shoulders. Alright, so let's wrap this up with a little decoder analysis. What does this filing really tell us? Well, the most impactful part for us as investors or potential investors is the update on their legal counsel for stock offerings. Postal Realty Trust is actively selling shares under a shelf registration, meaning they can issue new stock when they see fit, and they've brought in some very reputable law firms to ensure they're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. This signals a commitment to compliance and careful execution of their capital raising strategies. While this filing doesn't give us the juicy financial numbers themselves, it confirms that they've released their quarterly results and that they're being very structured about how they sell their stock. The fact that they've updated their legal advisors for these sales, using major firms like Hogan Lovells and Hunt & Andrews Kurth, suggests they are either gearing up for significant stock issuance or are simply ensuring their existing programs are managed with the highest level of legal scrutiny. This can be seen as a positive sign of good corporate governance. However, we need to remember that these are at the market or ATM offerings. This means the company can sell stock opportunistically when the stock price is favourable. While this provides flexibility, it can also lead to dilution if a large amount of stock is issued. We'll need to see the actual financial results to understand if the company is growing fast enough to absorb any potential dilution from these stock sales. Keep an eye on those financial reports to see how their revenue, earnings, and property portfolio are performing. In conclusion, Postal Realty Trust is actively managing its capital structure and legal framework for selling shares. The strategic engagement of top-tier legal counsel suggests a focus on solid execution and compliance. The key takeaway is to look for their actual financial results to see if this careful legal approach is matched by strong operational performance that can justify the issuance of new stock. What's your take on these legal updates, and what kind of impact do you think it will have on Postal Realty Trust's investors? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a like and subscribe to Corporate Decoder for more in-depth analysis of company filings. And don't forget to join our growing community on Discord. The link is in the description. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next Decode.